Snedden, one of our product managers for Lightship, and he's here to talk to you about Lightship tools. So if everyone can please quiet down so we can start. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Justin.
Woo! Thank you. All right, so hi, as Phil said, I'm Justin. You've probably heard my voice a few times if you've watched any of the tutorials. I'm the person that ends up making a lot of them. I just want to show you some of the new stuff we've done for working in the editor, which came out in the last version called Playback. Sorry, I'm too far away. Thanks. There we go. Called Playback, which means that you can record a session in a room of the entire AR experience just on your phone, and you can loop it in the editor while you're working and keep on playing and building things. So when you open up your examples, the same examples package you always use here, there is now inside this area down here called Virtual Studio, another folder called Playback. If you open this example and you build this to your device, it just makes a little recording app that has a record button on it. It's nothing fancy, but you build that to your phone, and I'm going to literally live demo all of this stuff for you, so hopefully nothing breaks. So I will literally run this app, which I built earlier, so you don't have to watch me build things. And what I'm going to do is just run it. So I'm not screen sharing my phone, but like it's just a camera feed, and I can record like me moving around. Sorry, you're all in this thing. I will delete it. I won't keep it. It's all fine. And now if I stop recording this thing and I bring that directly into the editor, so what that's done is it's made a folder on my phone, which I can access through Finder. If you want to be fancy, you can write some code to send it to yourself through a Slack message or whatever. I'm just going to be lazy and literally go to the files on the phone, and you can see this was the app I was using, which is ARDK25RC, and there's this captures folder. So you can just drag that off, and in here what you'll see is this tar files. The more you do, it'll just add another one. And if you extract these, what you see is basically the camera feed. It's just a whole bunch of images, right? So that was me waving around the camera to all of you. And obviously you want to do a better job than what I just did there for a real capture, because that was quite a blurry image. But I'm just going to drop this one, call it GDC so I can find it, in a folder with a few others, just so it makes it easy for my life. So I've got this recordings folder. Come on. And then I'll go back to Unity. And what I can do is basically pick anything that I want to use. So I'll start with segmentation. Just open this. And what I'm going to say is you go to Virtual Studio. So if you've not used Virtual Studio before, there's an ARDK menu here. There's this Virtual Studio thing which you run. I've already docked it. The first time you run it, it'll pop up. I just tend to put it on the side window over here. Now you've probably seen mocking before, where you turn this on and it puts fake objects in the scene so that you can test with it. When you run playback, you just select this other option, and then you go and find the recording that you just made. So on the desktop, I had this recordings folder here, and in there, I just made this one called GDC, and then I choose this, and then when I play it, it should start up in the editor and loop that recording that I just made. Now the reason why this is so amazing is it just works. So I just turned on the ground finding semantics, and it showed me where the ground was. So if you think about your development loop in your game, you can move so much faster now because you don't have to use your phone. You can use a real recording of a real place. You can make many different QA scenarios that you want to test. You can find bugs. So just to prove that I'm not completely lying about this, so here is a London office capture. It's a little nicer. This is a little demo I've been working on that'll be a sample at some point that just does procedural meshing of our office. And so that's running a full game, and it's using all of the tools together, and it just loops in the editor. And all your interactions and everything work the way it would normally. So you can actually just run your game with playback. So if you think about the hours you're going to save using this tool, I can't recommend this enough. We've been using this in the background for a while, and yeah, so over here you can see the little creatures are being spawned, and you can inspect your scene because it's actually just running in the editor. Like that's the live meshing, it's running semantics, it's doing all the things that you expect it to do. You put a breakpoint in, find what went wrong, fix it, iterate on it. So this kind of thing will literally save you thousands and thousands of hours. The other thing that we tend to do with these is if I find, I'll just go back to this plain scene here. If you find like a bug, like an actual problem, which we do quite frequently. In here, for example, there's one here which is called flickery carpet on the ground, right? So this is one where our research team have been trying to fix this for a while, but when you run semantics on the carpet in my old apartment, it really has trouble. So being able to record that and send it to them so that they could iterate on their machine learning model to fix it, which they have now fixed, so in a later version this flickering problem goes away, that is another amazing use of this. So not just developing your game, finding and reporting bugs through this can be used because you can capture the data. So that was the main thing that I wanted to show you today in terms of tools that we have. We do have a lot of other ones, which there'll be other sessions on from other people for authoring VPS locations, doing other bits and pieces. But I really just wanted to show you this thing because it is literally my favorite feature of everything we've done so far. It's personally saved me hours and it's going to save you hours. So yeah.
Yeah, so we have a lot of other tools, as Justin's saying. We really wanted to emphasize this tool in particular because it's super important. But our whole team is here to answer any questions about Lightship or any of the tools. So if you guys have any questions, this is kind of more designed to be a little bit more of an open forum and some demos. If you're interested in seeing anything else, that could be a question as well. So I have a mic here. If you have a question, raise your hand and I'll bring the mic over.
Hi. So games are notoriously hard to test, even more so when it comes to XR development. And then Unity has some packages that are available for doing unit testing. Have you done any experiments with integrating the playback here to be able to automatically load and run unit tests in a recording?
So we do that internally. So we have a full playback loop, and basically this is exposing some of those tools that we've been using behind the scenes in a nicer format, rather than it just being a headless thing that runs and produces a video. Not only can you live debug with the one that we're giving you, you can also script up something like that where you said, hey, I've got my end-to-end test running through Unity test framework and I just want to run playback, so you can do that.
Thank you. I was kind of curious, if you, let's say, use a third-party tool to like clone the editor, and because I know ARDK has multiplayer, like, can you actually, with that simulation, can you have like 2 instances and sort of like simulate that multiplayer?
So we have mocking for multiplayer. For playback, it would be hard because you've got synchronization things that you have to solve. So it's technically doable. It's not something that you would get out of the box with this. You'd have to write a lot of code to do the things. But the events that are triggered by the AR session still fire. So it's technically possible to build that. We haven't provided that for you though at this time.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Cheers, thanks for that. Do you take into account any sensory events besides the camera?
So this is live running all of our tools on your laptop. So basically, it's running our semantics and our meshing algorithms permanently. So if I open just meshing here, this will just mesh. Because the scene I showed you was doing lots of effects over it. This one will just show you it without any bells and whistles. So you can see it's just the standard meshing like example. And so this is built the same way it would on your phone. And here's the mesh being built there. All the tiles are being generated, so you can actually see what it's doing while it's doing it. Which is also neat, because then you can work out how we've done what we've done when before you were sort of playing around with the phone. Yes. The camera and the session data and the poses from your motion, and then we reconstruct that and we run it back through our algorithm as though it was your phone. So we're pretending your phone is moving around. We've got a fake camera, and it moves through the scene, and it just plays the...
Okay, got it. And sorry, just one more thing. So is it mainly the 9-axis gyro, magnet, and compass that you're...
It's all the data that we can get from whichever device that you're currently using. So yeah, we store everything we can. Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally taking a video and then doing everything that it normally would do in the camera to the video.
Yeah.
So.
And yeah, we use this for things like profiling, for bug regression, and for just like we're showing there, game testing at your desk when you're like, and it works for every feature, like other than multiplayer, it's got pointed out there, but like it'll relocalize VPS points and all that stuff through playback as well. So when you use one of the other tools, which I believe we've got a talk on RCA
Yes.
later, which shows you building a VPS location in your editor directly, placing your points relative to the mesh that you've downloaded, and then you can do that all in your editor, hit save, publish, go to the location, and the thing's there. Yeah, so it's using all the visual positioning system and GPS coordinates to work out where you are. So it's basically, again, running what you author for a VPS session is a position relative to an anchor that you've placed, and that anchor is resolved using the VPS visual positioning to get it in exactly the right place in the world. So the editor can basically fake that because you've got a mesh and you're authoring relative to it. So Unity just needs to know where from this point have I placed my creature. And then in the real world, we do the math to put it in the right place. But from a user's perspective, they just plonk an asset, connect it to an anchor, and then move it around, set up their scene, and hit save. And then go there. There's my creature running around and jumping on cars, or whatever it is that you build.
I actually had a question, like just with the Niantic in general. All right, my question is, sorry, I need to think for a minute. Aside from other franchises like Pokemon or Pikmin, what Nintendo franchises do you hope to work with in the future?
I'm not sure if we can answer that, but unless you want to take it, no. Okay, that's fine. All right. Good question, though. I'd like to know that too.
Yeah, sorry, we're lowly developers. We build SDKs for people. Those are above our pay grade, those questions.
Although we do have Peridot, which is a talk that
Coming
we're
up
going to, a new game, and they're going to be doing a talk right after this. That's probably our latest game that's about to come out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be a great talk, and they're going to talk a lot about how they use Lightship. So that's going to be very neat. I've already seen a lot of it, the talk, and I'm really excited. So,
Yeah, definitely worth hanging around for Peridot. It's a proper AR first game, so it's going to be awesome.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
Other than setting up a forward renderer, is there anything special for URP to get this to work?
No, it should work other than obviously working through your shaders and making sure that it's happy, but it'll just play out. It's literally just sending camera frames.
there is an ARDK URP asset that you would
Right.
have to set, and then you'd have to potentially change some of the materials. But I think we might have a script to actually do.
But to use this tool,
No, this tool
once
will
that's
just
set
work
up
because,
already,
it just adds in an extra camera and starts moving it through the scene and forcing in the frames where the video feed would have been. So as long as your URP scene is working, it'll work.
Any other questions? If so, I have a mic for you.
A little bit tangential, but do any of your scanning technologies work with motion capture sensors? Is there any integration?
So no, would be the short answer to that. So our scanning technology is built for scanning objects, as in like make a mesh from a thing. And the goal there is to accurately represent the building or the location that you're in, so that you can build the scene to have your creatures run around or whatever gameplay thing you're trying to build, or place cool object in the street for people to come by and see and go, wow, it's Godzilla. So that's the goal of that technology, rather than motion capture of people.
There is a talk about the scanning framework. Every time somebody asks a question, I'm going to point out a talk.
Yeah.
So we have a talk tomorrow about the scanning framework. It's going out in beta very soon, so we're basically doing a talk on it.
Yeah. So if you've seen Scaniverse, which is one of the products we get, so the tools from Scaniverse will be in ARDK very soon, and that's what that talk is going to be about. So you'll be able to build that level of really nice scans directly into your game. They'll go into that in the detail, but like if you wanted to scan Phil and put him over there, you could do that with this framework.
It's also about Wayfarer. So there's
Yeah.
going to be a two-part Scaniverse or scanning framework
Yeah.
and Wayfarer, not
Yeah.
so much about Scaniverse.
No, I should be clear. It's the tools from that technology put into Lightship. Yeah.
So I had a question about the once you take a video recording and you bring it into Unity and you build your experiences around that particular video,
Yeah.
then are you able to relocalize that experience
Yes.
in that specific place that you scan?
Yeah. Well, so the mesh two things in your head. What I've just shown you is not about the VPS. It's about testing a dynamic thing that will work anywhere, because all you've done is record a sample as though a user was walking around with their phone. And what you can do is have like many different ones. So for example, you might want to test how well your game works at the beach, how well your game works in a park, how well your game works in a street, an urban street, a busy street, and you can just have those captures on your machine, and you can test your game against them. The idea behind this is it's simulating a user walking around just holding the phone, just doing what they're doing. But if you've made a VPS experience that is at a location, it will also play back. We use that in this other tool called remote content authoring to drive behind the scenes what it's doing. So it will constrain you to the location, the GPS location you're at, brings in the mesh, and it drops in the objects.
Approving it? Or
So that's so they're two different things, right? So this is just for you working on your own app right now on your desktop, building a thing. If you want to scan a location, a new VPS location, and send it to us, there is a whole workflow for that, which will be in another talk, right, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, it's we have on the lightship.dev portal, there's a map. What's the name of it? I'm drawing a blank. The geospatial browser. It's a map view, and you can go and find your way spot, and there you can download your VPS meshes that you scanned with the Wayfarer app or whatever, and then load those into Unity, and then mock them up inside the editor.
I have no internet, sorry.
We're not showing that here, but we will be showing that in the remote content authoring VPS talk that is tomorrow at, God, I want to say 1.
Yeah. But essentially the workflow is very similar. You go to this browser, you download a mesh, you bring the mesh into Unity, and then you author relative to it, and then you save that. That's if you want to build something. If you want to nominate a new thing, you have to scan it and upload it to our system and nominate it through the web portal to say, I'd like this to come online.
And if you guys want to talk to anybody about that while you're here, these 3 folks back here are my team on the developer adoption team here, and they can help. So they're here to help answer questions, as are we. And that guy too.
Yeah, and I'm also happy to answer any other general questions too. It doesn't have to be on this topic.
Do you guys have any other questions about any of the other tools that, besides remote content authoring, which we will be showing later? So I guess I should qualify that. We have another tool called Virtual Studio, which Justin showed for a second. It has a few other features. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Well, I hope you've all seen mocking before. If you haven't before, it's instead of playback, it just allows you to run in the editor directly. So you see nothing when I run this default thing, but you can have. Let's see what that does. So you can see here it's just brought in some geometry that it can use here for my depth sequence that I'm running, which basically mocking just allows you to bring in a piece of fake data or a room that you've manually sculpted yourself, and you're just plonking it in to test. So it's sort of the playback one is the camera's on rails, so it walks through the world as though you're walking through the world. Mocking doesn't constrain you to that, so you could build a fake mock environment to test in. So before having the playback system, you might say you've got a scan that you've dropped in, or you've just built a room that's got the lighting conditions you want to test against, and you load those in. And it's the same as before. Everything will work in this mode. You're testing your various different settings that you've got in your whatever app it is. So show depth, it shows you the depth of the scene that you've made. So again, it's another tool to speed up your development, but this one is more you've got free control of the camera, which is kind of useful for testing other things. So this would be, the way I would typically work is I usually start with mocking because I'm just working out what I'm doing, and then once I've got something that's kind of working, I probably go out and I'll record sample areas where I feel like the game's going to get played in a park, or the game's going to get played, out the front of my house. So I'll bring those in, and then I'll test what I've just done against that. So you've got level 1 is sort of works, level 2 is it works in the real world, and then level 3 is build it to device and go and wander around and make sure it actually works, because each one of those is a different level of confidence for the game that you're building. Yeah. So hopefully you've all used mocking, because it's been there since day one. And again, that was my favorite feature, and now my favorite feature is playback.
Any other questions about Virtual Studio or playback? Or anything else?
Yeah, I'll be here. Yes,
Yeah, we'll be around think we have, what time is it? So it's almost 11:30. We'll be around. We're going to start some more talks around noon. But otherwise, there are lots of folks from the Lightship team here that can help answer any questions or just chat if you want to meet any of us. Can you guys raise your hands actually if you're at Niantic and you work on the Lightship team? So we have Anu, Jamika, Justin, Joe, Braxton. So we're all here to talk to you guys, help answer your questions. So.
Thanks, everybody. Oh, one more.